Order. If we'll have the roll call at this time.
Pat Dorr,
Here.
Dion Jones,
Here.
Janice Lewis,
Here.
Mark Long, Diane Singer, Donnie Singh,
Here.
Steve Stratton.
Here.
Okay, you've received in your packet the minutes of the October 14th, 2025 minutes. Are there any corrections or additions that need to be made to the minutes? If not, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Jones to approve the minutes. Do we have a second?
Second.
And we have a second by Ms. Lewis. Any other discussion on the minutes? If not, then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Then the minutes have been approved. All right, under new business, our first application is an application for a zoning map amendment submitted by Chance Walker Smith Walker LLC on behalf of property owner Cynthia Fox trustee. The request is to rezone 108 plus or minus acres from AR Agricultural Residential District to R2 Single Family Residential District for the purpose of creating Foxpaw Creek, a residential subdivision. The subject property is located on the west side of Davidson Road, approximately 0.25 miles south of Goodman Road. We'll now have the staff presentation on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'll give you the site location and a quick intended layout. The site, as you can see, is on the west side of Davidson Road. Here's Davidson Road right here. It's about 0.25 miles south of Goodman Road. So Goodman Road would be up here to the north. Here's the layout. It's within two phases. Phase 1 is 121 lots. Phase 2 is proposed to be 141 lots. Here's north. Obviously, I had to rotate this to make it fit on the slide. So this is the proposed preliminary plat. Moving on to the rezoning. The project overview and a quick summary. As you stated earlier, Chance Walker has submitted this request to rezone from AR Agricultural Residential to R2 Single Family Residential Zoning District. The applicant has also submitted a concurrent preliminary plat application for the tract, which reflects the intention to create 262 detached single-family residential subdivision lots, which will be known as Foxpaw Creek Subdivision. I'd like to mention that the staff does recommend to table that application, the preliminary plat application, to allow the city engineer an opportunity to review the traffic impact study. And there is a 9,000 square foot minimum lot area requirement in R2. A little background, I'm going to skip over these two because we've already covered them. The existing land use is vacant, and the future land use designation is suburban neighborhood. Now, suburban neighborhoods have lot sizes ranging from 6,000 to 30,000 square feet, with most in the 12,000 to 15,000 square foot range. And these subdivisions generally have urban roadway sections which have curb, gutter, and sidewalks. However, there are a number of older single-family subdivisions constructed before sidewalks were required, and a number of newer planned developments that were permitted to develop with rural roadway sections. And a rural roadway section is open swale, no curb or sidewalks. So I'd like to show you the surrounding zoning and future land use map. Here is the surrounding zoning. To the north, we have C2 highway commercial, and the land use is a church. As you can see right here on this map, here's the church to the north of the subject property. To the east is AR, agricultural residential. and it's detached, I'm sorry, here's east, detached single-family residential lots. To the south is a vacant undeveloped parcel that is also zoned AR agricultural residential. And to the west, we have AR agricultural residential zoning, and it's also vacant. The future land use map shows the subject property here as suburban neighborhood. To the east is rural estate. Rural estate here, south of Timber Oaks Drive. Public, semi-public, which is Autumn Cemetery. And there's green space to the west and commercial corridor to the north along Goodman Road. So some key features of the proposal is a pavilion and a walking trail right here. Boulevard entries here and here. There is a walking trail with a 35 to 40-foot buffer strip proposed. And most importantly, along Davidson Road, we're going to go from north to south here. The off-site, Davidson Road off-site improvement on the east side, 625 feet toward Goodman Road, curb addition and tapering from 30 feet to 24 feet. In this section, the applicant has proposed widening to 24 feet, open swales, and a 5-foot trail. And here south of Timber Oaks Drive is no widening and open swale and 5-foot trail. Some other key features of the intended Foxpaw subdivision. It is worth stressing that the requested R2 zoning district is a conventional zoning district, not a planned development district. If the rezoning to R2 were approved, the applicant would not legally be bound to 262 lots, considering that the property is 108 acres and the minimum lot size in the R2 district is 9,000 square feet. The applicant would be legally entitled to 522 lots at most and a density of 4.8 developed units per acre. However, for practical reasons, including needed land for roads and land occupied by streams on the property, the actual buildable number of lots may be less than 522, but also more than 262. I'm going to hit the bulk requirements of the existing R2 and proposed existing AR and proposed R2 district quickly. The minimum lot area in AR is 1 acre. The proposed minimum lot area is 9,000 square feet. The minimum width at the building setback line is 110 versus 70 feet. Front setbacks 50 and 35. Side setbacks are 15 feet or 5, and proposed R2 is 5 feet, and the rear setbacks are 50 and 25. I'm going to move on to the next slide. The analysis. The criteria used to evaluate a rezoning are listed below. The original zoning classification for the property was a mistake. The applicant has submitted that there is no claim or evidence to suggest the original zoning classification was a mistake. Records indicate the property was annexed into the city in 1996 with the DeSoto County's AR Agricultural Residential District zoning. The subject property's AR zoning designation extends to undeveloped property on its west side and to homes sited on larger lots of 1 to 10 plus or minus acres located on the east side of Davidson Road. Staff finding. Staff concurs that the existing AR agricultural residential zoning designation of the property is not a mistake. The property was annexed into the city of Olive Branch in 1996 with an AR agricultural residential zoning classification property. and there has been no change to the zoning designation of the parcel since annexation. Continued. The character of the neighborhood has changed to such an extent to justify the proposed rezoning. The applicant has submitted that major changes to the neighborhood justify the proposed rezoning, including the city's 1996 annexation, extension of central utilities, namely sewer, into the area, improvements to Goodman Road, including the signalization of the Davidson Road intersection. The Foxpaw Creek subdivision has a lower density than both the Crumpler Place and Cherokee Trail subdivisions, and the city's comprehensive plan 2040 recognizes the development pattern and the changing character of the neighborhood in designating the subject property on the future land use map as suburban neighborhood. Staff finding. From a land use perspective, while there are several subdivisions of suburban character remote to the subject property, there are also others within 200 feet to 0.3 miles to the concerned parcel that have a rural estate land use character, which are 1 acre minimum lot sizes, rural roads without open swales, and no sidewalks. Some of these subdivisions are more proximate to the subject property along Davidson Road. And here's a graphic. Here is the subject property. As you can see right here, the proposed density is 2.43 developed units per acre. We have development over here, 0.19 developed units per acre, 0.62 development units per acre, 1.9 developed units per acre, and over here Wedgewood, 1.59 development units per acre. These subdivisions, Morgan Meadows, Carnell First Revision, Jones 2-lot Second Revision, Stewart 3-lot subdivision, McCullough Manor, Goodman Oaks, Autumn Point, and Wedgewood subdivision Section A have substantially larger lots with direct access to Davidson Road and Autumn Oaks Drive. Transportation character. The transportation character of Davidson Road has not changed since the area was annexed into the city of Olive Branch in 1996, except for a short portion, which is 650 feet from Goodman Road. Davidson Road has remained a rural street. Davidson Road would be the only collector street providing access to the subject property from Goodman Road. From a transportation perspective, unless improvements are made to Davidson Road, which would change its character from a rural street to a collector street section, there has been no change to the character of the area to align with the proposed R2 zoning of the property. A public need exists for the rezoning. The applicant has submitted that Olive Branch has a shortage of housing units, and building permits in the city have not kept pace with the historical average. And also, a public need exists for the rezoning as it will facilitate the development of a new single-family homes. Staff finding. The future land use map in the Comprehensive Plan 2040 does designate the property in its entirety as suburban neighborhood. However, additionally, the R2 single-family residential zoning district generally aligns with the policies and land use character of suburban neighborhood. So, the recommended motion. We have three options. Option number one is based upon the finding that the existing AR zoning of the property is not a mistake. The land use character of the area along Davidson Road has remained rural over the years, and other developments around it, although suburban in character, have generally maintained a low density up to about 1.91 developed units per acre, and the R2 zoning district would permit developments of a greater density that would be misaligned with the character of existing developments along Davidson Road and its environment. Deny. And recommend that the Board of Aldermen deny the rezoning of the subject property from AR to R2. Option number 2, based upon the finding that the land use character of the broader area of the property has changed from agricultural, rural to suburban residential over the years, and that there is a public need for a rezoning reflected in the suburban neighborhood designation of the property on the future land use map of the Comprehensive Plan 2040, to recommend approval, and to recommend that the Board of Aldermen approve the rezoning of the subject property from AR to R2. And the third option is based upon the finding that the functional standard of Davidson Road is practically associated with the land use character of the subject property, and that the city engineer has not had sufficient time to review traffic studies to determine the full scope of what improvements may be needed on this road, to table the application until the Planning Commission receives the recommendation of the city engineer regarding improvements to Davidson Road. That concludes staff presentation. I do believe that the applicant has a presentation.
Okay. Are there any questions of staff before we?
Question for the staff. Does the city engineer plan to review the traffic studies?
As soon as possible, I would say. I think he's begun reviewing it already.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, if Mr. Gambone, if you'll come forward and represent the application. And state your name and address.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to present to you tonight from this side of the podium. My name's Jason Gambone. I live here in Olive Branch at 4749 West Petite Loop, and I'm here tonight representing my new company called Garden Street Communities. And also with me tonight we have Chance Walker. He's one of the consultants for Garden Street Communities on the project. He's our engineer with Smith Walker Engineering Services, and we also have Joe Vanderplume. I believe he likes to go by John professionally, but he's here. He was our landscape architect on the project. I had hoped to have Michael Rogers, who's the general manager for the Memphis region of Adams Homes, here tonight, but unfortunately he was unable to attend. Hopefully he'll maybe come in while the presentation's going on. But I want to start with who is Garden Street Communities. And Garden Street Communities is basically the lot development company for Adams Homes. The company's less than 10 years old. Adams Homes dates back a lot longer than that. They've been in business for many, many years. As a matter of fact, with Adams Homes, I would state in the record that Adams Homes is the 31st largest builder in the entire United States. Among privately owned companies that are not publicly traded, they're actually the 13th largest. So Adams Homes has built tens of thousands of homes all across the southeastern United States, all the way from the Carolinas down into Florida, Georgia, all the way over to Texas and everywhere in between. They've been pulling, Adams Homes has been pulling plenty of permits here in Olive Branch over the years, so it's one of Olive Branch's largest builders. I will say, though, that there has yet to have been any subdivision that's been designed by Garden Street Communities where Adams Homes is built yet. So all of the subdivisions where you may see Adams Homes building in Olive Branch were not developments of Garden Street. So I do want to talk about kind of the main goals of what Adams Homes tries to do as a company. We've been very, very successful. What Adams Homes tries to do is, and what they're known for really, is mostly single-family, one-story floor plans that try to give people, and they're all brick construction, good high-quality construction, and they try to provide people with a good amount of square footage and try to provide value in those houses. So they don't, and they build it like any builder, they build it all different price ranges, but it's important from the Adams Homes perspective to try to keep the pricing of the houses to where they're attainable in the market. And that's one of the reasons why the company's been so successful over the years. Very, very important to try to price your product in where people can actually afford to buy it. And that's one of the things that we're really trying to accomplish with our Foxpaw Creek project. that you can see on the screen. First of all, we really think that this is an excellent proposal. We think we have a well-designed subdivision. You know, we want to make this something that's attractive for prospective customers of Adams Homes. We want to fit into the area. We want to improve the existing neighborhood. I'm going to go through some of the improvements that we're offering as part of the project. You know, something like this represents a massive investment by a private company. So you're talking about, by the time you count all of the infrastructure, buy the land, build the houses, all of that stuff, you're tens of millions of dollars of investment into the city of Olive Branch. But again, we're looking for something with this project that would really be good for Adams Homes customers and really be something that the city of Olive Branch would be proud of, including planning commissioners and elected officials, as well as all of the staff members that are reviewing it at this point in time. You know, another thing I would like to do is give a little bit of perspective on this. You know, Olive Branch right now, you have about 15,000 single-family homes throughout the community. I mean, I live in a single-family home here in Olive Branch in the subdivision. Most of you do in subdivisions. So this is nothing that's, my subdivision has 204 lots. This one has 262. It's very comparable. This is not anything crazy that we're asking for tonight. And again, it's just single-family development. I mean, when I was here, you know, we had big people had problems with convenience stores. You know, that's considered something terrible. There were always issues with multifamily. You know, the city does have some issues with multifamily developments. You know, sometimes people came and complained to you about, you know, warehouses near my house. I mean, that's none of that, guys. This is just, you know, kind of your standard, normal subdivision that you would do for single-family homes that's everywhere in Olive Branch. So I do want to get a little bit into the design of what we've done here. You know, one thing I do want to say on that other point too, I did hear the staff, and we vehemently and strongly disagree with much of what presentation that you just heard, but I do need to point out one thing. I heard talk about 522 lots. I mean, I heard somebody in the audience back behind me gasp, you know, when they heard that. And I just want to be very, very clear, and I hope the record reflects that we are not proposing 522 lots. You have an application before you right now. It shows 262 lots, and that's what we're proposing. So I'm not sure where this 522 is coming from, but it's not really, it's just inaccurate, and I'll move on from there. So anyway, I'm showing you the layout that's on the screen here. The smallest lot that we have of these 262 is 9,100 square feet in size. The smallest lot there is 70 by 130. Most of the lots are larger than that. You know, one of the key points with this design that we've done is we have faced all of the lots and all of the houses are facing inward to the project. We have no homes or no lots even facing Davidson Road. So what we're proposing along Davidson Road is a wide buffer. Kevin mentioned that it's 35, 40 feet. And I want to kind of explain here, and actually most of these lots, if you look at it out here, more than 50% of these lots actually back up to a common open space or other green space. That's why you see so much green. That's how this project, we were able to obtain very low density on this project. So one of the things I want to explain here is what you see in the green, and I'm not sure if I'm going to get this to work right here. There we go. So these areas, again, this is north and this is going southward. So you can see these green areas that you see right through here. Those are actually streams. There's a reason the property is proposal is called Foxpaw Creek. There's kind of a creek and there are some tributaries to that. So really, when you're doing this, you hire environmental consultants to go in and kind of determine what the nature of those streams are. And basically, in simple terms, if you've got like kind of standing water in it or running water and you have certain types of vegetation around there, it might be considered a wetland or a protected stream. And that would mean that if it is determined to be a blue line stream, that you would have to do buffers along each side of it to protect it. And so that's why you see those very wide areas. Now, one thing that we're trying to do as a project goal is, I'm not sure if I'm getting this or not on the screen, but as a project goal, what we're trying to accomplish here is, and we think that we can get, with our environmental consulting, some pretty favorable recommendations. Not everything that you see in green is going to necessarily require that 30-foot wide protection on each side. So when we would eventually get to the point where we would get the environmental consultant to get the report and get all of the permits from MDEQ, what that basically means is that we can narrow those green areas down that are through the inside of the project, and that's going to allow us to do two things. The first thing that it will allow us to do is shift everything up so we can make those buffers along Davidson Road, which are not streams, those are treed areas. We can make those wide. We want to make those as wide as we possibly can. We feel pretty confident that we can add at least 10, 20, 30 feet or more to those areas. And there's also trees that are in the city right-of-way out there. The city right-of-way is 90 feet wide along Davidson Road, so by adding our common open spaces to trees that we would preserve in the right-of-way, we're hoping to have a very, very wide buffer of natural area that's through there. And secondly, we can also increase the size of the lots. Now, we can increase them because you can kind of see the linear layout of the project. We can increase those lot sizes by adding depth to them. Now, however, one thing that we can't really do, or that would be very difficult to do, is make them wider. And that really goes to the whole idea of the 262 lots. So we can make the lots bigger, we can increase the buffer width. One thing that's very, very difficult to do, and possibly impossible, is to decrease the number of lots. So I want to explain to you kind of the way this works from a development perspective. And again, I'm going to be very basic on it, but it's a lot of money to acquire this property. It's a heck of a lot of money to develop the property, all of the consultant fees, everything that you're doing. It's a very, very expensive project. So when you get to the end of that project, what you get is you get a certain amount of development costs that are associated, and you divide that by the number of lots, in this case 262, and then you get a number out of that, and you say, this is what we have to put into this project to make it work. And so if you turned out and you said, well, the city turned around and said, oh, we want wider lots, or you can't do R2, you can only do R1, what would happen is basically we would lose lots out there. And you drop from the 262, you drop down under 200, whatever it might be, and then you do that same math, and then you're dividing your total cost of development into the number of lots, and that number gets a lot bigger. And so what that happens is that you eventually are adding that money onto the cost of a home, and then that in turn makes it unobtainable for the people that you're trying to sell the home to. Again, this is a very kind of a basic marketing thing. I mean, one way I might think of it is, to use a different type of analogy, is that if you're baking a pie, the ingredients to bake the pie, maybe it's $10, $12 to bake that pie, right? And so if the person who wants to sell the pie wants to cut it up into 8 pieces, they feel like we can get $2 a piece for these 8 pieces of pie, so we get a return to $16 versus what you've put in. But if the government comes in and turns around and says, hey, you can't, do that, you can only have 4 pieces of pie, says, well, you can charge more for those pieces of pie. I mean, that's all great, and maybe that's true, but in the marketplace, the job of Adams Homes is to be able to sell those product to people, and so that drives the cost up. And if there's no market for that, and that's kind of what's happening here on a broad scale, throughout Olive Branch and many places throughout the United States right now, where it's very, very hard to be able to develop and bring in that product. So, and I guess I'll go into the rezoning criteria from there. It's probably a good segue to do that. There was some discussion about the character of the area and whether it's changed. I mean, this is a piece of property that is basically a quarter mile from Goodman Road, again annexed in 1996. I mean, the changes that have happened along Goodman Road since 1996 are immeasurable. I mean, this is really a good location for a single-family development due to the proximity to Goodman Road. I mean, the city has a motto about live, work, worship, play in Olive Branch. I mean, what better place can you get to all of those activities from other than, Goodman Road? So it's, again, conducive to that. Really, even more than that change of Goodman Road in the area is, you have to look at the the change that's facilitated by the sanitary sewer that's there. And kind of the way the whole system works in Olive Branch, this is basic, again, to the whole city, and the way the city's developed over the years is that when central sewer gets extended into an area, that's when you can make the lots smaller. When you don't have central sewer, you have to have lots that are much larger because you have to have septic systems, and our soils in this area are really not great for septic systems. So that's why when you look across the street to the larger lots over there, they were all done before the city had annexed and before the city had extended central sewer. I mean, right now, the city annexed 19 square miles back in 2021, and so right now the city is literally spending tens of millions of dollars to extend sewer service to the areas that were annexed specifically for the purpose of facilitating single-family subdivisions like you have before you tonight. So I think that's very important thing to talk about, and Kevin did mention correctly that the comprehensive plan, and it has a major discussion about sewer and how that changes things. That's a major change and how that changes the character of any area. And so, you're in a situation where, that facilitates and opens up the development for the area. I will tell you flat out that if this property were to be developed with 1 acre lots, it's just not going to work. It doesn't work economically. And again, your comp plan has extensive discussion about that, about how sewer is the changing factor out there. So, there is we gave an analysis too of surrounding subdivisions. I mean, we did not. I mean, I made it very clear in the analysis. If you're trying to compare an area that was developed before there was sewer there and lot sizes with an area that was developed after sewer was there, I mean, there's really no basis of comparison. That's apples and oranges. So in the analysis that was provided with the application, we looked at subdivisions. The nearest subdivisions that we could, we went westward about 3/4 of a mile, went eastward about a mile, and we went to the north about a half a mile and picked up ivy trails. And if you look at all of those subdivisions combined, again, these were all developed, annexed and developed when sewer was available. The density that we're asking for is very much in line with those developments. So again, we don't feel like we're asking for anything that's crazy in terms of density. Again, you can see on the drawing there, you can see all of the green there. And it's a big piece of property, again, 108 acres. So again, if you look at, we're pretty much at the same density as like an Ivy Trails. They had to give a 5-acre park up there in Ivy Trails. So, that was why their density is kind of what it is. But anyway, I do want to make sure that everyone understands that. I know and again, this is the issue I think that was brought up by the staff as they were talking about transitioning with larger lot sizes. And I think that idea would have merit maybe for a different property. But and I remember there was probably about 6 or 7 years ago, there was a developer, it's the same developer who is on the Cascades, but that developer came in with a project that was called Mallard Lakes or Mallard Point or something like that. And what they tried to do in their project design was they lined Davidson Road with half-acre or 20,000 square foot lots to try to address the compatibility, and then they scaled it to get their numbers so the project would pencil out. They went from these 20,000 square foot lots all the way down to like 5,000 or 6,000 square foot lots in the project, and you just don't really have enough room there to make that type of transition because the property doesn't have that much depth as you get away from Davidson Road. So, you're in a situation where, I thought that plan was terrible. That was not a good plan, and I just don't think you would have an opportunity to transition in this case. We feel, again, with this design and what we're trying to accomplish, that a much, much better way to transition from a planning perspective is to put that buffer in there. That landscape buffer along Davidson Road. Again, we've got no lots, nothing facing Davidson Road. So, if you're across Davidson Road with a wide buffer, during the summer months when there's a lot of foliage, I don't think you'd be able to even see any of the houses back there that we're proposing. So again, I think that's important for character and transition and keeping rural character of Davidson. I think those are all, valid issues. I just think the difference that we would have is that we think this design achieves it much, much better than trying to transition with lot sizes in a property that's just not laid out to be able to do that. So I think the staff did agree on the public need criteria, but it all kind of ties together. The public need is not just for housing units. Olive Branch, and this is a problem that is nationwide right now. You have not been seeing the type of permits that Olive Branch has seen in the past. And again, this is right now in the nation as a whole, there's a deficit of 4.5 million housing units. So it's a very serious problem. And the reason for that deficit and the reason you're not getting the building permits is really due to pricing. So what's going on in the marketplace is that you can go out and you can put as many, $600,000-$700,000 homes as you want, but at the end of the day, that is not considered affordable or attainable to people at the income levels. An Olive Branch matching your median family income to the prices that we're proposing to do. Now, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying these are affordable houses. This, to me, is not necessarily, I don't know that I would consider it affordable, but we do think it's attainable, and the math does bear that out. So if people can get into, a house at $340,000, $350,000, again, to me, that's not necessarily affordable, but it is attainable based on the marketing here. And I would say, again, this is what a company like Adams Homes is able to do, is they can see the market and try to target their pricing, accordingly. So I do, want to deal with the issue of traffic. I know that that's been a big, controversial issue, and for whatever reason, that's the case here. A couple things on traffic, and I know I did this job for many, many years, and a lot of times with traffic, I think people hear, 262 homes, and they think like that's all going to be done overnight. And I can assure you that's not the case. By the time you get all of your plans done and get your permits and you go out and you build the roads and install the infrastructure and the electric, it's going to be a long time. You probably won't have your first houses there until probably 2 years from now, and that would be optimistic. You'd have maybe 10 or 12 houses. Now, you're going to develop, over a period of time. When you do a traffic study, the traffic study that we submitted has a build-out date of 2029. I would expect that it would be a lot longer than that personally. But a couple things that I wanted to point out on this. We've got two entrances along Davidson Road, and we think that most of the project traffic is going to use that north entrance right there. So this is, again, about a quarter-mile strip between Goodman Road down to our north project entrance. And so most of the cars, there's no single-family houses there, so most of the cars are not going to drive by anybody's house at all. Now, there will be a little bit of increased traffic in this section between the two entrances, but there'll be no project traffic that will be added south of Timber Oaks along that stretch of Davidson Road. So, I think that's something very important to keep in mind as you go forward. I did provide trip generation numbers back with the original application that went to the staff back on October 10th, and then the traffic study was provided to the staff about a week and a half ago, so they have had that since November 3rd. I did email that out to them. And I think there's been a lot of emphasis again on the traffic study, and one of the things, I'm not sure if there's a good understanding of how a traffic study works, and I don't want to go into this in too much detail, but the way a traffic study works is you use those trip generation numbers, and they come from a book that's published by the Institute of Transportation Engineers, and ITE does dozens and dozens of studies, and that's what tells you, basically how much trip generation is going to come from anything. So what the traffic expert did is the traffic expert went out to all of the intersections up and down the road, and they actually had cameras out there, and they filmed it over a period of time, and then they actually counted the turning movements through all of those intersections. They went all the way up to Davidson and Goodman, and there's an alleyway that runs behind the businesses there. They looked at that, and then they had cameras out also at the Timber Oaks intersection as well. So essentially what they do is they take those counts and they see the existing traffic in the area, and then they add on to that from the ITE book the amount of projected traffic that would come from the new homes, and then they also add on to that the amount, expect that you would have some increases in background traffic over the years up to 2029, so they add a certain percentage per year. So then they go back and they look at all of those intersections, and they're all graded on something called level of service standards. So right now, I mean, needless to say, all of those intersections are functioning perfectly well. There's not a problem out there, and what the traffic study showed was that that's not going to change in that post-development condition. All of those intersections, again, all function at either the same level of service or certainly passable levels of service. I would point out on this traffic issue that you have, right now, zoned, you have 3 lots that are on this stretch of Davidson Road on the west side, and 2 of them there on the east side, and those are all zoned currently commercial. So just to give you an idea of numbers, if you developed all 5 of those lots with medical or dental offices, you would actually be generating more traffic than this 262 single-family home development would be generating. If you had only 2 of those 5 lots, again, currently zoned, 2 of those 5 lots, if they were developed with fast food restaurants that were basically the size of, the Captain D's up there, you blow away the traffic. It's much more traffic than 262 single-family homes generate. So again, this traffic, I understand the concern and everything, but the facts just don't necessarily bear out that is an issue. One of the things I think Kevin did mention was we have been able to track down the city engineer for certain guidance on the project. So the city engineer asked it to do certain improvements, and so Kevin did lay those out. There is I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time with this pointer, but there is right about there, there's a section of Davidson Road that's been widened on the east side, and the pavement's been widened out to about 30 feet out there. So most of Davidson Road right now is anywhere between 19 to 22 feet in width. So what the city engineer asked us to do was to start over there on the east side of the project and widen out the road, down to the front of our development, which we agreed to do. So we have started out there, and what you would do is you'd kind of start where that jut out is, and you'd take the 30 feet and you would start kind of like at the base of the triangle, and then you would taper it down as you went to the south, and it would get narrower and narrower. And then on the other side of the street, which is our project frontage on the west side, you kind of pick it up on that side of the street, and you start with the triangle and you kind of taper it up and make it wider on our side of the street to our project entrance. So the city engineer had asked for 30 feet in that case. I don't know that we could quite get to 30, but I think we can get pretty close to it. He asked us to go between our 2 project entrances and widen out that section of Davidson Road, which is currently, again, about 20 feet, and we would widen it out to 24 feet. And again, that would be for, addressing public safety. And I think even more important than those road widenings out there is the city engineer asked us on the east side of the road, there's sidewalk that extends down from Goodman Road a little ways, and where that road improvement stopped, he asked us to extend sidewalk from there. Again, I'm on the east side of the road, so we would be extending that down on the east side of Davidson with curb gutter and sidewalk, where we'd be widening the pavement down about 600 or so feet. And then we would cross over across Davidson Road with a crosswalk, and you would pick up a rural trail that would go on the opposite side of the street, on the west side of the street, and that would continue across, through our entire, project site down Davidson Road. So You're talking about 3/4 of a mile roughly of off-site, improvements, some of them, I guess, directly adjacent to the site, others farther to the north of the site, but to really create a pedestrian system that's not there right now. So I do want to conclude the presentation. I'm sorry for being long-winded, but I think it's important to kind of conclude with some main points here that I do want to get across. Judging and looking at the current situation that you have out there compared to what it would be like in the post-development condition. Right now, you have a situation where you have property that's sitting there with sewer and should be developed, and it's sitting out there that's generating basically very little, almost nothing in the way of taxes. So there's some analysis that we provided in the post-development condition. If you had 262 homes that assessed at $300,000 per home, you're generating about $850,000 a year in property taxes that would be split between the schools and the county and, of course, the city of Olive Branch. And then that doesn't even count the taxes that would be generated by the new residents. The way Olive Branch has grown is basically by having people here spending money. That's why the businesses are coming in. And so you'd have a situation, you'd have about 600-700 people out there, new residents at the time of build out. They're going to, Lowe's or Home Depot, or going out to restaurants or whatever the case, Academy Sports, and they're generating sales. And this is kind of basic economics, but that's the way the economy grows, and that generates a lot of sales tax for city of Olive Branch. Current situation, and I talked a lot about this, you have high housing costs that are making Olive Branch unaffordable, and that's based on the current income levels. I think that the city's freezing out young families who are looking to have single-family homes. I think it's really stifling to the move-up market. And again, this is not a problem that is just Olive Branch. This is a nationwide problem everywhere. So, again, the post-development condition, you'd have 262 houses. Many of those would be attainable for young families and also provide for move-ups. So if somebody's in a home right now and they need more space and they want to be able to move up in here, again, the prices are such that they could do it, and then that would free up their house for other people to come in and do that. But we really do have a shortage in the marketplace, and it's a critical situation nationwide. Again, you're talking about 4.5 million housing units, and the main problem that you have is price. And so that's, again, what we're trying to address with the entire project. I just talked about it. The third current condition is you have substandard road widths on Davidson Road. So again, we're talking about increasing those in the post-development condition to 24 to 30 feet wide. Again, right now you have no pedestrian facilities out there. So we would be developing 3/4 mile along Davidson Road of sidewalks and trails for people to use. And that's not even to mention inside Foxpaw Creek, that would all be curb, gutter, and sidewalks. You have about 2.36 miles of roads in there. So you're almost, when you add in the trails we have internal to the project, you're probably over 5 miles of trails and sidewalks and everything in Foxpaw Creek. So I think that's very substantial improvement for the area. I looked at the aerial map out there and even passed this forward to, planning staff, and I see what could be tremendous opportunities out there for the city to actually expand on this trail system and even run something down to the south or maybe over to Craft Road. I've lived in Collierville for a number of years, and I will tell you that trail system that they had in Collierville was excellent. I mean, that adds a lot of value for a community, and I think it's something that I think Olive Branch residents deserve to have that ability to walk somewhere. I think it's, again, very important and critical. Right now you've got very, very poorly maintained area over there. Again, in my opinion, I'm not trying to bash the city on this. I mean, Public Works has got, they've got a big areas that they have to go out and bush hog. So they probably go out to Davidson Road, over on the east side of Davidson Road. They may make it out there a few times a year. I went out there, parked my car to go ring some doorbells and try to invite people to our neighborhood meeting. And I mean, I noticed high grass. I saw there was litter and everything in there. It's just completely doesn't look good. In the post-development condition, post-development condition, what you would see is, improvements that you can see on these renderings that were done I mean, it'd be beautiful, and I mean, you'd have a nice trail system there, and most importantly, you'd have a homeowners association in Foxpaw Creek, and they would be maintaining the grass all along Davidson Road in that area. So to me, I mean, if you're over there across the street and, you know, looking at this, I mean, to me, that is a much better look that you would have than what you're currently looking at. You know, we have, you know, beautiful things at the entry features. We have a lake that would be reshaped and would be a great entry feature. Landscaping, we've got the crossbow fencing. You can see examples of that. I mean, that would look, again, in my opinion, so much better than, you know, what the city is looking at now out there. And again, intended to be a major asset. I'm going to stop talking. I know I've probably gone way over my time, and I'm sorry for doing that. I do have all pictures of the prospective homes there. If anybody were interested to look at that, or whether that comes up in the discussion, I'd be happy to share that. Well, thank you very much. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any of me.
Any questions?
Couple questions. Would you consider a planned unit development instead of just a regular zoning to R2?
Well, I think basically what you have here, I'm not sure what more we could do.
You know, we have a little bit more control and say-so.
Well, I can assure you by approving what we've given you, you know, we've given, again, options for, you know, improvements. We've asked, you know, the city, we got the input of the city, what you would like to see. I mean, if you tell us, you know, we're happy to do that. I don't know, I guess I don't know what value a planned unit development would really give you other than what you're.
If we would just be approving a zoning change right now. The first step is just to rezone it to
Sure, well, you have the
R2, and then that would, you know, we really just allow R2, and, you know, they.
Oh, no, sir, I won't, no, sir, we're here offering that plat. What you see on this drawing is, I mean, all these drawings, this is what we're here, that's what, I mean, that's what we're asking you. This is absolutely what we're asking you to approve. What you see right there, that's an official application that's handed to you. You know, we don't know, again, where all those, you know, delineation's going to be, but quite frankly, you've got everything in here that's equal to what you would get in a planned development. And we are not, again, I want to repeat that again, we are not proposing 522
Right, and
lots,
yeah.
absolutely not.
It's the first step is just the rezoning piece. And if we approve the rezoning, and then whether the step 2 happens or not, we've already approved just R2. The second question is, and sort of a little bit of conversation first, and then a question. The accessibility, not necessarily affordability. A lot of the developments that we've seen in the past have different levels. You know, they're not all the same house. And
Right.
And so if we, and again, I haven't seen the houses or the different houses because we haven't gotten to that point yet. But if you do have those different houses sizes, you get a mix.
Sure, absolutely.
Instead of just a concentration of affordable houses. If you get a concentration, and I'm not saying affordable, what's the word you used?
Attainable is what, yeah.
Attainable. Attainable housing. If you've got different levels of attainable housing, especially when you add in the HOA, you get a mixed demographic, and that mixed demographic can help sustain a neighborhood long term.
Yes, sir.
And I know the price is just an estimate, but, you know, up in Magnolia, there's, you know, houses for sale up there right now. There's one for $300,000.
Mhm.
And if this neighborhood is $300,000, what's, you know, the quarter acre, 0.2, you know, quarter acres in Magnolia, quarter acre here, what's going to set it apart from the person who, you know, can buy the house in Magnolia? Because
I think, again, I'm not going to talk bad about Magnolia, but we think, again, that goes to, well, first of all, let me say what we would commit to, what we've committed to is that we would do a 2,000 living square foot minimum over the 262 lots. Now, we would ask for that 20%, 20, I guess it's 19% of those, or 50 lots would be withheld that we could do 1,800 living square foot minimum. So we have, and don't get me wrong, I mean, Adams Homes is like any other builder. I mean, we're going to offer the wide range of housing product. Now, some of the ones that would be more expensive are wider. It's a wider footprint, so you'd have to put those like at the end of cul-de-sacs where the lots widen out. They're not going to fit, but you have a substantial amount of product and a wide range of sizes and prices that would fit on those lots. I mean, we would hope to have, a wide variety in there. That's what we would expect, but we are asking, again, we'll meet the same standards as any other builder would meet. I mean, I know you constantly see that with minimum square footages, and we've already obligated to that. Again, we obligate, Adams Homes does, again, all brick construction, and, we use, where it's not brick, to add some color, you use hardy plank, which is, again, the highest quality material. It's cementuous. So really, one of Adams' main selling points is they're selling people a house that's really got very little maintenance costs in it for a long period of time. They're using roof truss systems, which are stronger and help the roof hold up longer. So again, these are all things that are positives in what the company tries to do. But and I'm not going to sit here and say it's all going to be attainable, but we're looking at a range. Again, we're looking probably low 300s, maybe for some of the smaller houses, if we could sell them out there, up to, we hope to have some that are, 2,800 living square feet out there. Again, those would be on the larger lots, toward the end of the cul-de-sacs, but that's exactly what Adams Homes is seeking to do.
Okay. Because I know residents like to hear houses that are coming in that, in their minds, raise their property value.
Oh, absolutely.
And so,
Oh.
if all these houses are $300,000 and my house is $400,000, they don't see it as a value, or it's not
no.
going to raise their.
No, sir, we would expect, again, we try to bring some in, at least we want to bring some in the low 300s, maybe 325, but we would expect probably most of those will be more expensive, and then probably the most expensive ones in here would probably be pushing the 400, mark for the largest homes. And again, any builder is going to tell you the bigger the home that you can sell, the more your profit margin is, so I don't want to, mislead in that manner.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No more questions, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, I will now open the public hearing. And first of all, let me just thank y'all for being here. It's always good to have people here listening to the applications and trying to make Olive Branch a better place to live. So just thank you for being here. Also, the vote, if you're not familiar with our planning commission and how it works, our vote is basically a recommendation to the mayor and board of aldermen. So we will, whatever we decide tonight will be a recommendation, and the final decision will be before the mayor and board of aldermen. So I just want to let you know that too, also on the front end. We're going to open it up for any public discussion. Anyone that wishes to speak for or against this application, you'll have 3 minutes. Try not to repeat what's previously been stated, and only one trip to the podium. And also, if you have any questions, just state your questions, and we'll hold all the questions to be answered to the end. So if anyone wishes to come forward, you can come forward, state your name and address, and make your comments. Yes, sir, please come forward.
Howdy, I'm Eugene Rose, 6070 Timber Oaks Drive, right there on the corner of that entrance to the subdivision they're talking about. Not repeating what he said, but to emphasize what he's saying, as far as redoing or extending from where y'all stopped the road and the sidewalk that he was speaking of, it's on the east side of Davidson at the basically past the, I guess, the alleyway behind the stores, and it all the way to that first property. So it's about where the wood line starts, it stops. If you drive Davidson much, 2 cars are hard to pass, and the more cars we have, we're, likely to have somebody hit or something if we don't have a sidewalk and the cars collide if we start getting bigger trucks and whatnot that are going through. The other side of it is we've got more people. We've already got more people in Olive Branch. And for y'all, what I would hope, y'all have some plan for the traffic problem we already have. I work in Byhalia, which at Casey Road. From Davidson to Casey Road, we now have 22 red lights. I know because I counted them. The way to work is traffic at 5:20 in the morning, and the way home, it stops all the way from Casey driving in. It's that first before right. Most of the time, it's stopped up at the first big Olive Branch light, but then it's backed up all the way on the overpass coming to, into town. And you're waiting at least 15, 20 cycles of a light just to get through back to town. So what I'm asking y'all is just start doing some foreplanning for what you already have and what you're gonna have soon. There's a lot of different systems cities have all, have done. I came from Dallas and they had a service road, and then you can drive straight through, no lights. But I'm asking y'all just to keep that in mind because we knew that already. But adding this, at least that road needs to have a sidewalk and extended down that, easement that you already have. But that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Rose.
Thank you.
How y'all doing? I'm Jacoby Fincher, 6335 Autumn Oaks Drive. And the reason why I'm here is I would like to reason with the board to let them know that Wedgewood is right there to the west. And then you have Autumn Oaks and Cherokee. And they're coming in with $300,000 houses. Some of the houses in Wedgewood, many of you all know, run $1 million. And some of the houses on Autumn Oaks running 6, 7, 800,000. They have 1.5 acres on Autumn Oaks and Timber Oaks. Now they're coming in with these small houses. And with smaller houses and lower economics, it brings in crime, violence. We need full transparency. And to ask them if they're not going to build houses comfortable to what's there, they should move on. They don't live in our neighborhood. I live there. I've been there 32 years. And I'll be damned if I want people coming in just because he said their backyard is facing me. Don't mean nothing when people have cars and they can walk. We're trying to make Olive Branch a better place to live, and I would hope that you all want quality people here, not just any people. Just because he can get 262 people in our neighborhood don't make it right. We must appeal to the reasonableness of people and understand that we do not want to become like our neighboring city. They accept anything as long as it's money. Money shouldn't persuade us to do things that ordinarily we know is wrong. We have to look at the fact that when they come in here, their property, they're going to get more money for those cheaper houses. We're going to lose money because our property value is going to go down. We know this. Thank God we have cell phone. Everybody has a computer in their pocket. Use it. Use that computer to help us to understand why do we continue to do this to our people. We have already accepted Captain D's, Popeye's chicken, grease and pollution in the air, and yet we haven't said a word. But somebody got to stop and think about what we're doing to each other. I would never want to do that to your neighborhood. If you got 1.5 acres and your house is 600, 700, a house just sold in the neighborhood for $800,000. He said he's finna get 350, 400. This is a pipe dream. None of this stuff will come to fruition when the police got to run in and out of the neighborhood. Full disclosure. We're just talking, right? And I don't want to run over my 3 minutes, but I would hope that you all would not approve this. Because then we have to understand being empathetic and sympathetic toward one another is one of the basic truths when it comes to humanity. Think about it. This is just a dream. None of this is going to happen. The police in and out of there, the paramedics, everybody. Because when you put people on top of each other like what he's doing, it's not going to turn out right. And I'm not going to stand around because these people are here because they're concerned. And one thing I know, when you put pressure on people, we're going to move. We're going to move.
Thank you, sir. Do we have anyone else wish to come forward?
Good evening. Dante Salati, 6320 Autumn Oaks. I can't add any better to what Mr. Fentress said, my neighbor. So I'm just going to stand in front of you and say, I second that. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, good evening. My name's Trey Peters, and I live in Cherokee Meadows off Darren Drive. And just to reiterate some of the things that they said without repeating it, my two main concerns are the traffic and the infrastructure around the area. But I also want to throw out a point that with that neighborhood being built and Timber Oaks not having any sidewalks or infrastructure in it, as you increase that traffic in that neighborhood, people will find a way. And they're going to start cutting through that area, through Cherokee Meadows to get to Goodman and Craft. And I think that poses a potential safety risk. I also have six small children that live around me, and you're going to increase the through traffic as people try to avoid cutting straight to Goodman and going through those neighborhoods. I also want to point out the point about the home values. He said that they're barely attainable. You're going to put smaller homes, and the overall feedback on Adam's home, because you can do this through analysis, it says that the feedback signals significant risk, varying quality, inconsistent build finishes, potentially weaker resale value, higher maintenance and repair needs. So as you consider what to do with this land, I also want you to consider the builder that you're allowing to build on it, because I'm afraid that they will drive down home and property values in the area. And then the last question that I had is, do we think that this is going to cause any school rezonings with the increase in homes in this area?
Okay, anyone else wish to come forward?
Nobody, he didn't speak to, on the plat, there's 2 roads that are going west. And it's not showing where they're going to or what those possibly would be used for in the future.
Sir, we need your name and address for the
Oh,
record.
I'm
also.
sorry, Steve Case, 6560 Davidson.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
So that's one question.
Good.
You've got 2 little outlets there, and I'd like to know more about what the city plans to do with that. And one of them told me that the church has been approached, and Quality Nursery, I'm not sure who owns that little access off of Goodman. And they say, well, they just don't even want to talk to us. Well, Adams Homes being 31 of however many, I think I'd offer some change, dangle a carrot. There needs to be, if there was another access to the back of this subdivision, I would be a little more open, but 256 lots times 2.5 cars, man, it's going to be a big difference. If it does happen, Davidson needs to be improved. Sidewalks, the whole 9 yards first. That buffer, if it goes through, needs to be done first. And again, going back to your plat, on Davidson, there are a lot of small lots that back up to Davidson, but then, I don't have a pointer. there are 6 big lots, I'm talking right in here. Why can't all those lots be that big? I hope you follow me there. And then there's several other sections, not just the ones that are pie cut. I know they get big on the back, but I'd like to see that size lot throughout the whole subdivision. And who says there aren't people that are going to buy bigger houses? I think there are. It's like you said, Olive Branch is drawing people like crazy. I'm sure a lot of them have quite a bit of money to spend and would want a bigger house. So I don't see how that's an argument. And construction traffic. There again, I'm talking if this thing goes through, and I don't want it to, but construction traffic alone, the first whatever year and a half it takes to even get it developed, Davidson Road's going to be torn up big time. And all that dirt and everything out, then we get snow and rain. I mean, it's going to be a mess, a real cluster. And then he talks about everything they're going to do is better. Everything that Adams developer is going to be better. They're going to help us out so much. Well, and this little pie analogy. I've been around these subdivisions and stuff a lot. I was an electrical inspector for 16 years. I've seen these lots in Memphis and Shelby County. They got these, and then they just come in and mow it down. I've seen it here, down Pleasant Hill and Lauder. You look down in that little hole down there, they just cleared the whole shebang out and put as many houses as they can in there. Why don't y'all meet us halfway and put a little bit bigger lots in there, and I bet you'll wind up making the same amount of money, to be honest with you, and make people happier. I live right across the street, so everything's hunky-dory for y'all. You're going to make a lot of money, but in the long run, it's probably going to bring my property value down at some point. So that's why I'm concerned. Trail system, that wasn't talked about too much. It was mentioned a couple of times. We're talking trail system or sidewalks. I didn't see much of a trail system on there. It sounds all nice and everything, but I don't see it on the plat. He mentioned one little area there. We're just going to walk around in circles or something. So I don't see much of the, he's kind of pushing that to make the subdivision look good, but, and the access to Goodman. If he's got that kind of money, I'm sure he could entice somebody to give him access to that subdivision. And there again, I'd like an answer to those 2 outlets at the on the west side. Why they're there and where are they going and what would be the future of that?
Okay.
More of the same?
Thank you so much. We'll address that at the end. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Lee Turner, and I live at 6260 Autumn Oaks Drive. A couple of questions I have and concerns. I think we all know that property at some point needs to be developed. We obviously in the neighborhood love the rural atmosphere of it. That's one reason we're in Olive Branch, is we love it being a little bit more rural and not such a suburban and city area. From what, just a little bit of research I've done, a 262 single unit family subdivision would typically have approximately 655 residents, with approximately 92 to 150 school-aged children. At this time, that neighborhood is zoned for Pleasant Hill Elementary and DeSoto Central High School. Both schools, from what I understand, are already well overcrowded. 655 additional residents with at least 2 cars per family is going to put what additional 1,200, whatever cars on already congested Goodman Road. I agree with a lot of things that people are saying here, especially, I didn't think about this, but the gentleman that talked about the cross traffic down Timber Oaks, people that are living in this new subdivision that would want to get to Craft Road would probably cut straight through Timber Oaks and weave their way in through the neighborhood versus going out on Goodman Road. And additionally, what Mr. Case was talking about, on the west side of the development, there's 2 roads, it looks like. They should come out on, looks like maybe Wedgewood Road that is already closed off. So one of my concerns is why is those roads not being considered to be opened instead of all the ingress and egress coming in and off of Davidson? Also, I believe it's Huey, Hughey, I may not be pronouncing it correctly, Road is also a direct access right off of Goodman, but it's not showing direct access into this subdivision. So that's a question, why are not those roads already being used? Why are we utilizing Davidson Road? Additionally, on Davidson Road, like Mr. Case said, with the construction traffic, right now, semis are not allowed down that road. It's a $1,000 fine to go on that road, so I don't know how that would play into this scenario. I also have concerns, obviously, the price point and the size of the lots for the properties. We are surrounded, like they said already, by Wedgewood and Cherokee Valley. Thank you. That's a big concern. Okay? That is a very huge concern. The environmental impact, the gentleman spoke on that briefly. I have a lot of concerns about that. Obviously, there's a lot of wildlife in that area. What happens to that? Well, what can we do about that? I love the idea of having a trail system, but once again, it's not mentioned on here. But, maybe that land could be considered for using more of an environmental space in our city instead of another, I'm sorry, it's a low-cost development area. It's not going to be a high-quality area situated between 2 high-quality neighborhoods. But thank you for your consideration.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? If there's no one else to come forward, we will close the, we have one more. Please come forward.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Pam Cordy, 6035 Autumn Point Cove. My husband and I moved to Olive Branch about 3 years ago. And in the process, we left Wisconsin. We were done with snow, and so it didn't matter where we lived. We looked everywhere. We looked in Tennessee, we looked all over here. We ended up in Olive Branch because of the lot that our house is on and the location. We looked at many Adams houses in many developments, mostly in Tennessee, and it was all postage stamp sized lots. It was just house after house after house after house. And I think during the and excuse me if I get all these locations a little mixed up, I'm still not used to living down here. But I think a comparison was made to Ivy Place. Ivy Place is not even anywhere near comparable to Autumn Oaks neighborhood. As someone else said, the lots are all over an acre. The houses are all several $100,000 up to almost $1 million. So, and Autumn Oaks is adjacent to this development. Ivy Place is not even close. So I think you need to look at, to make a fair comparison, you need to look at the houses that are adjacent to this development. So thank you again for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'm Bernice Morgan, and I live at 6328 Timber Oaks. His street coming out of that new subdivision will butt right into our street. Right now, we get a lot of traffic coming from the subdivision that's up over the hill. They use that instead of trying to get out on Goodman Road because we have a light at Davidson. So we get a lot of traffic coming through our neighborhood that's not living right in our neighborhood already. If all of these people are only having 2 roads coming from that neighborhood in and out, that traffic is going to be unbelievable. And the gentleman mentioned that the traffic from the Captain D's and the car wash and stuff like that, that traffic doesn't enter our neighborhood. That traffic is all maintained in that front area coming off Goodman Road. They go into those businesses and they go right back out. They don't come into our neighborhood at all. Not counting school bus traffic, you put 262 homes in an area, you're gonna have a lot of children that need to get to and from school. All that school bus traffic's gonna come in. Our schools are gonna be overtaxed because we're in Pleasant Hill Elementary School area, and then they feed to DeSoto Central. DeSoto Central is already topped out. So now you're gonna add another school. We moved in that neighborhood 30-plus years ago, and we put in our own road because there wasn't a road at the time, because we wanted a rural environment to live in. And now you're gonna change all of that? And what's gonna hold these people's feet to the fire? You're giving them this zoning change, and they say it's only gonna be 262 homes. What's gonna hold them to the fire where they don't, when they get the zoning change, oh yeah, we're gonna do 500 and so now, or 400 and so now? Our area can't absorb all these people, and Olive Branch has grown 10-fold, 20-fold over. So they're not offering a bunch of incentives or whatever you want to call them to come into our area. We get enough new people into our area every year. We have grown faster than any county in Mississippi. So I vote no.
Thank you. If there's no one else, then we will close the public hearing, but I will ask the applicant if he wishes to answer any of the questions that were brought forward.
Yes, sir, thank you. I appreciate all of those comments. I know this type of thing that the Planning Commission hears often. The idea of, I don't know, I'm not sure 100% where to start, but the idea that this is bringing crime in to the area or lowering values, those two ideas are just inaccurate and false. I mean, I live in a subdivision here in Olive Branch, so I am a local resident. My house is less than 2,000 square feet. These houses would all be larger. I've lived there for 9.5 years. My house has increased in value by, substantially, well over 50%. It's increased in value since I bought that house 9 years ago. I've lived there. I've never been a victim of any crime in the 9.5 years I've been there. And our subdivision has different house sizes, different lot sizes. It's just not an issue. Again, as far as, I hear these concerns about traffic, but again, the traffic that's going to be generated by this subdivision runs on that quarter-mile strip that's between the north entrance of the subdivision and Goodman Road. We've had a professional traffic study done, and it does show, again, that there is sufficient capacity there, even in the post-development condition. The idea of coming back, again, I went into great detail on this. I hope you heard me, but right now in Olive Branch, people cannot afford, and again, this is a nationwide problem, they cannot afford the houses that we have available. So the idea of going in there and building $600,000 or $700,000 houses, I mean, no one can do that. It's just not going to be economically viable. Frankly, there's a big waterway, a big ditch that the Army Corps of Engineers has that goes between, this property and, Wedgewood. So there's no way that somebody could even get to Wedgewood unless they wanted to go by boat or something. I mean, really, and so, as far as we stub out, we've added the entrances on the only way that we can. Those are where the property abuts Davidson Road. The property does not abut Huey Road, so we cannot be expected to access there. I mean, I did try to approach New Jeremiah Church. They said they were not interested in selling. We're stubbing out roads on the plan over to the west, and those would be for future connections, presuming that the city followed its land use plan and said that that property over there to the west of us would also be developed with suburban neighborhood type development or subdivision. So, what would happen is the person that has that property or develops that property would connect into these two roads, and then they would probably extend that road that at one time was called Wedgewood Drive. But again, that does not connect to the Wedgewood subdivision, so there'd be more ways to get in and out of the subdivision. Again, as far as comparing houses, we were comparing densities. We were not comparing houses. These are not postage stamp size lots. That's just not the case. And again, we're trying to offer a wide variety of houses in there. Some would be larger, some would be more expensive, and some would be more attainable to people again. And I do think you have to think about people that are younger. I think you have to think about the move-up market. You even have to think about people who may be retired and want a single-story home to be able to, downsize some. I mean, when I moved to here from Collierville, again, we downsized our house. That's not uncommon as you get a little bit older and if you don't have kids in the house. So again, we're trying to serve not only, young families and move up, we're also trying to serve people who may want to downsize their properties. Again, if Adams Homes could build, $1 million homes in there on larger lots, Adams Homes would do that. That's just not viable in the marketplace. So I think I've answered everything that came up. If I missed something, I'm sorry.
Clarifications or input from staff? Is there anything you wish to add? I'm sorry, the public hearing is closed. You'll have to remain silent for the rest of the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few things to correct for the record or to put in the record. The first regards the allusion to 522 lots. Staff did not say, and this is for the record, staff did not say that this property is proposed to be built for 522 lots. The R2 zoning district allows lots that are minimum 9,000 square feet in size. For the 108 acres piece of property in the R2 zoning district, that is the maximum that zoning will allow in the R2 district. However, as staff pointed out, when you get to the subdivision itself, you're going to need land for roads, you're going to need land for other, amenities in the subdivision. You have, for example, a buffer stream there that is going to take away some of the buildable area of that piece of property. And so what is proposed before you is 262 lots based on that. Now, that doesn't mean that if the property was zoned R2 and the developer came back and wanted to pick up 3, 4, 5 lots, if they could, it will not be permitted in the R2 district. No, it will be permitted. That is just a fact. It is our responsibility as planning staff to give you the facts, and that is a fact. The second has to do with when traffic study was presented. That's true, the traffic study was presented to staff for review about a week and a half ago. Normally, that study is supposed to come in together with the application when the applications are due. It wasn't submitted when the applications were due. So the city engineer has asked for some time to review that. He is currently reviewing those traffic studies. Street improvements are not only based on traffic study. That has not been the history, practice, and that's not the route to go. Street improvements are sometimes also based on what our comprehensive plan calls for. So if you have a road that calls for a street to be a collector street, for example, and a traffic study shows that you will not have the type of improvements that take you to that level, the Planning Commission can recommend, and the Board of Aldermen can recommend, that improvements be made to that road that would eventually get you to the point where you have what the comprehensive plan called for. Otherwise, there was no need doing a comprehensive plan in the first place and having all those plans in there. I think Jason addressed the connectivity to the east, that is to the west, that is intended for future connection if that property to the west develops. I think those are the key things that I wanted to call attention to. Thank you.
Okay, now what we're voting on is the application to rezone the property. The actual plat is the second application. So what the application is to rezone from AR agricultural residential to R2 single-family residential district. So I'll just open it up to the commissioners. Any discussion or comments or any motions that you wish to make at this time?
I actually had a question for staff. So on the lot minimums and the square footage minimums of the homes that are to be built on these lots, since we don't have a PUD, how do we enforce that accountability? Does that just fall on the plat, or is that just kind of with the HOA, or how do we enforce that since we have no PUD documents or anything?
Really, it comes down to zoning will allow lot sizes in the R2 district. Zoning will allow you to have a lot size that is minimum 9,000 square feet. Legally, you can have lot sizes. I don't yet have a table, maybe Chance may have a table of what each of these lot, is in terms of size. Zoning will allow you to have lots that are minimum 9,000 square feet in the R2 zoning district. That is legally permissible, if you rezone the property to the R2 zoning district. That is what zoning is going to allow. I think the real question facing the Planning Commission, subsequently maybe the Board of Aldermen on this item is, yes, the property is designated suburban residential. With the utilities that we have out there now, and with the state of the, what it's going to cost to extend sewer to develop that piece of property, I don't see practically, economically, anybody coming in there and building 1 acre lots. That's just not going to happen. The real question is, how small should it be? How small should those lots be? Should it be 9,000 square feet? Should it be 15,000 square feet? Should it be 20,000? That's really where the question lies. And it's a fairly debatable issue. But what is before you is a request to go to R2 that will legally permit lots to be 9,000 square feet. In terms of minimum 9,000 square feet, in terms of the house sizes, I think Jason did mention the letter of intent is to have houses between 2,000 to 3,000 square feet. I think 20% or 19% of them, about 50, will be about 1,800 square feet. Now, whether that is binding comes really at the level of the final plat, not even so much at the preliminary plat. Because when you take those numbers and put on the final plat and you record a final plat, then that becomes like a covenant kind of on that particular piece of property at that time. But if you had it in the PD, it's binding on zoning all through. From no matter which developer comes in and picks it up, it's binding all through. Thank you.
Any other questions? Any comments, discussions, or motions?
Well, there are some instances where a PUD can be.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think if there was a PUD, the only real benefit of that I see is that we do get little more accountability on the fencing, on the materials, and the landscaping and stuff like that. Am I correct on that? Right? Because right now, if it's just zone R2, then they're beholden to the standards that we set within our city ordinance, right? But if it was a PUD, it could go above and beyond our ordinances as well, right?
You can add some of that in the preliminary plat, as I think Jason did mention. You could have some of those design elements in the preliminary plat and bind them to it in the preliminary plat, and also when you get to the final plat. Those are some of the things that you can do. The advantage we've had in the city when it comes to PUD is that you are able to kind of vary lot sizes in a particular way on a piece of property in a way that is binding. You can transition from larger to smaller lots in some particular areas. You're able to do that.
Mm-hmm. And we also get, if the developer changes, then the PUD stays with that piece of property.
Yes, it remains binding.
Yeah.
So in R2, 9,000 is the minimum, and there are lots in this subdivision that are bigger than 9,000, right? They just can't be below 9,000.
Yes, they cannot be below 9,000. I think somebody pointed out about 3 lots like in this area. I would think that the lots at the end of this cul-de-sac, they look a bit larger. Those should be larger than 9,000. I think the ones at this end of the cul-de-sacs really, it's very common for lots in cul-de-sac to be a bit larger, you know. The other ones that are in there, as I said, except Chance has a table that shows the details of those lot sizes. I don't have them.
And then also another thing, in order for them to change lot sizes, once the preliminary plat or even final plat is recorded, that would require them to come back before us to change lot sizes, correct?
Final plan.
Yeah, once your preliminary plat and the final plat gets recorded, if they want to deviate from the size lots and the counts that they have right now, if they want to change it up, they would have to start the process all over again with us.
Let me say something about that. When the final plat is approved and it is recorded, if a property owner comes back and wants to reduce a lot, insofar as that lot is not reduced to below the zoning minimum size that zoning dictates, the city's hands are tied. So if a lot today, for example, you have 2 adjoining lots, one of them is 16,000 square feet and the other one is 12,000 square feet, and tomorrow somebody decides to reduce that 12,000 square feet lot to 9,000 square feet on a final plat, just through a replat process, you cannot deny that. You cannot deny it on the basis of lot size. It meets the minimum lot size that zoning calls for, and you have to approve that plat.
Jason, is it possible at all for you to consider a PUD? That
To be honest with you, I'm not sure where that's going to get us.
You see where we're going with if we approve it, if you win the lottery and you decide to move on, the developer Adams sells to Mayberry Homes Builders.
I want to be very, very clear. Everything that I've showed tonight, and I sat here and I told you that we're going to try to skinny out those stream buffers. Our intent is to make all of those lots larger. We want to make that buffer larger. Okay, that's what we want to do. Everything that we've showed, it's binding. I mean, we've showed you preliminary plans for landscape. We've shown everything that we've shown you. That plat is binding. Again, we would present you with covenants and restrictions. If the city wanted us to do it, it would definitely say houses cannot be less than 2,000 living square feet. We would, as I said, we would like to have at least 50 in there where we could do something that's a little bit smaller, again, for the affordability issue. So everything that you have is binding. I mean, we could wrap all of that up and put it in a PUD, but I'm not sure that anything really is going to change. I mean,
I 100% believe that your intent is, you intend to do what you said.
If you approve that, if the Board of Aldermen approves that preliminary plat and approves this rezoning, that is all binding, that is binding. We're not gonna, nobody's gonna come back with something that's, 290 lots or 500 or whatever the number, they said 520. That's just not, that's, again, you are the approval authority. It's just one way to approve versus a different way to approve. And, as far as going to a PUD, we would take a lot of the things, I mean, the drawings that Joe Vanderplume did for us, I mean, those drawings that you have tonight, those are things that he got those out of like what he would normally have put into a PUD document. And again, those are binding. You have different ideas for, conceptual plans for, for example, pavilions. I think in the staff report it said, there were going to be 3 pavilions. I told Kevin, I said, no, it's just 3 options for 1 pavilion and the open space. So, all those, we showed different options for fences and all of that. But again, all of that would have to be finalized, as you went forward. And that's normal, what's been going on in Olive Branch, again, for years. Again, I think the city was trying to get away from PUDs. We're it's just because they're very difficult to manage, but you can do all of the same things that you can get in a PUD by virtue of your recommendation or approval tonight. That locks us in, and it would lock a future developer in as well.
What What's the timeline on getting the study done to identifying the final lot sizes? Because that's really where you come down to.
Well, that
If
would-
it's possible to make those lots bigger, obviously it
Oh,
would be
yes.
depth,
Yeah.
but what would that timeline be?
Well, that would have to be done, when Chance would do the final construction plans, that would have to be done. We would have that all, because we have to apply for a permit from MDEQ, so it takes some, whatever, 90 days or 60 days to review that. So, that's it. And that would be done before the city's engineering department would approve the construction plans. We would also have to give you final plans to the planning staff for all of the open spaces, and, that's all the plantings, and we would do all the trail systems, landscape irrigation, all of that goes to the staff. And that's normal process in Olive Branch. That's the way, developments are done. So and again, I don't, the idea of going to a PUD, I guess my point would be, I'm not sure that really anything changes. That's just spending a lot of time. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, when I hate to say this, but when we got the staff report, and this is true, I told Donnie Singh this, that, the staff was really talking about this traffic study. So I must have called and emailed the poor guy that was doing the traffic study for us, Mr. Kaiser. I probably bothered that guy with 10 calls and emails to make sure he got that done, and got it done very fast. So then it got turned in, and then, staff again still hasn't reviewed it. But, so at that point, when we got the staff report, I had to call, the environmental consultants. They've been out to the site, and, they basically have said that some of those streams are going to be protected, but other streams that you see there are not going to be protected because they didn't see the signs of the water and the plants and animals. So, but I had to stop them. I said, because we have to spend, this is a lot of money that you're spending on this, and if we got into producing a big PD document, again, that's tens of thousands of dollars that would be spent, and I'm not sure we're going to give you anything different than really what you have before you tonight. So, if we were to get a green light tonight, to get this thing to even if you recommended denial of the rezoning or whatever you did, at least if we got that, to go to the Board of Aldermen, it would be in the middle of December, and so we could at least, decide, have the decision, do we want to tell our, consultant to, start work again on that environmental stuff. We could, certainly, there was some discussion about, the road improvements and all of that, and, that's just, Chance and my boss and I, we sat down and we tried, based on what the city engineer asked us to do, we tried to put together some cost estimates. We think it could work, but, we didn't really unleash Chance on that because, Chance is expensive too, as a consultant. So, we want to hold him up. We don't want to spend a lot of time doing things if we're, getting the signals that the city, it doesn't matter what we do, the city's, opposed to the project. So I don't know if that's I guess a bit of a long-winded answer to say, we're trying to work with the city if the city will work with us, and we're certainly able to do certain changes to the plan, but I 100%, I'm telling you this in earnest, if it came back and it said, hey, you've got to do, you can only get, lots, or try to do a step down, that's, in all likelihood, that's going to make those houses so expensive it kills the project, and maybe that's the goal. I know some of the folks that might make them happy out in the area, but I don't think, again, Olive Branch, y'all have 56 square miles, you've got so much area that needs to be developed. You're spending tens of millions of dollars extending water and sewer to places. You got a piece of property, again, right in the heart of your city that's a quarter mile from Goodman Road. If you can't do a single-family subdivision there, I would question where can you do it? And again, I appreciate all of the comments and concerns, but traffic, crime, property values, that's just not the reality of development in Olive Branch. It never has been. I want to say in 2000, you had, the city had, 22,000 people. This is a city approaching 50,000 people, and all that very aggressive annexation program. And again, that's all for the purpose of homes. Olive Branch has been very, very slow in its permitting, and the reason is very simple. It's price. You just can't, you can't develop and try to sell, $800,000, $900,000 homes. It's just not enough people that can afford those. And so, again, maybe some folks don't want those people in Olive Branch. I mean, that would include me, because I couldn't afford a $700,000 or $800,000 home, so,
All right,
anyway.
thank you.
Okay.
Jason, I had a question, one question. If this was to be passed on to the Board of Aldermen, before that meeting, would you guys have any issues providing a copy of the covenants and restrictions for the HOA and whatnot, so at least they could review those?
Well, yeah, we have standard covenants and restrictions. They'd have to be customized for this project, but I don't think that would be an
Yeah.
issue. We would, yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything, in a subdivision, you're giving those common open spaces get deeded over to the HOA, and they have responsibilities for maintenance. We would definitely put in the architectural requirements that would go with the subdivision. We would put in, minimum house sizes, all of that. That's absolutely not a problem.
Okay.
Kevin, would you put up our options again, please? The board, the recommendation staff options that are before us. Okay. One thing that I would like to say is Olive Branch I grew up here. Olive Branch is very diverse. We have subdivisions that are adjacent to one another that really are diverse. And it does bring in a lot of different people. I love the rural atmosphere of Olive Branch that I grew up with, but I do see a need for us to be able, we're not a community that really wants to have apartments and developments that bring in a lot more traffic and potentially a lot more crime. This is a nice section, a beautiful section of our city. I live in Maywood. It's maybe the oldest subdivision in Olive Branch. I live next door to a log cabin or across the lake from a log cabin. I live across, just down the street from a beautiful home. My home is a nice 2,000 square foot home. But then we have some other areas that aren't as nice as some of the others. That has not really affected our property values. We still have, not too long ago, we had a home that sold for around $400,000, which doesn't compare to the $800,000, but it seems like the $300,000, $400,000, even $250,000, that's more of a median in Olive Branch. I do trust our law enforcement. We have good law enforcement here, and we can't just say no more people can come to Olive Branch. I really, based on all that, plus the fact that the traffic, the complete build-out would not be until 2019, that there would not be such a huge increase of our traffic. Now, I'm with you on the not liking construction. We've gone through that in Maywood with some adjacent subdivisions. I hear your heart, but I do think that we do, based on the Tracy Kirkley, a realtor, addressed the Board of Aldermen last week and talked about the need for housing, and this is not doesn't seem to be a project that would be detrimental to our area. I'd like to make a motion that we approve option 2, that the land use character of the broader area has changed from agricultural rural to suburban residential over the years, and that there is a public need for rezoning in the suburban neighborhood designation of the property on the future land use map of the Comprehensive Plan 2040. I'd like to make a recommendation that we approve that and submit it to the Board of Aldermen for their consideration.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Lewis to approve the option 2, approve and recommend to the Board of Aldermen the rezoning of the subject property from AR to R2. Once again, this is the zoning only. It has no, we're not approving the plat at this time. Do we have a second to the motion?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Jones. Any other discussion on this? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Then the motion carries and it has been approved from AR to R2. And now this will be sent to the Mayor and Board of Aldermen. I'm sorry, public discussion is closed. I am sorry, y'all.
What is the date that goes
Well-
before the Board of Aldermen, please?
Yes, this will be at the Board of Aldermen for the public hearing on December 16.
December 16th.
December
will be the meeting.
16.
Take your concerns to them. They vote the final vote. Take the concerns to them.
Okay. All right. We'll wait just a second and let. Ma'am. This is item number 2. We have an application for a preliminary plat for Foxpaw Creek subdivision submitted by Chance Walker Smith Walker LLC on behalf of property owner Cynthia Fox trustee. The request is to subdivide 108 acres into 262 lots and 6 common open spaces. The subject property has an accompanying application request to rezone from AR to residential district to R2 single family residential district. Is located on the west side of Davidson Road, approximately 0.25 miles south of Goodman Road. And staff recommends to table this till December the 9th. I believe the city engineers requested this to be tabled.
Yes, sir. The staff recommendation is in line with the city engineer's request. Staff recommends this application be tabled to provide the city engineer sufficient time to review the traffic study, make other considerations as may be necessary, and recommend the specific scope of improvements that may be required on Davidson Road to service the proposed subdivision appropriately.
Okay. Does any commissioner wish to make a motion to table this application to the
Separate
December?
question.
Okay.
Can we put some conditions on an approval that address the traffic study, address that everything has to be addressed to the sufficiency of the engineer, so that the process moves forward, but can't go before the Board of Aldermen until those things are addressed? Or do we have to just yes or no to the table? Does that make sense, what I'm asking?
The preliminary plat still has to come back before you if you decide to table today. And when that plat comes back before you on December 9th, then you can put whatever conditions you want to put on the plat at that time. So the plat, if you decide to table the preliminary plat today, then when it comes back before you at your meeting next month, you can put any conditions you want to put on that plat before the Board of Aldermen will hear the plat on December 16. But if you're referring to conditions for the review of the traffic study,
Yes, that's the conditions that I'm concerned about. If the traffic study is the hindering block, then that's to be addressed between the developer and the city engineer. I'm not sure where we fall in that process, to where we couldn't put that as a condition right now. I guess That's where I'm confused. I'm not talking about a condition of the plat. I'm talking about a condition of the traffic study not being sufficiently reviewed by the engineer. And to follow up with the question, could we address anything at final plat? Could we address anything that came up after the city engineer reviewed the traffic study? Could that be addressed at final plat, before final plat, or when the final plat happens?
I think it's important to kind of underline the process. You have the preliminary plat and you have the final plat.
Yep.
The final plat is going to come when this infrastructure, the roads have been built, water and sewer lines have all been laid,
Okay.
and then the applicant wants to record the plat and begin selling lots. That's when you're going to have a final plat. What you have now is the preliminary plat, which basically shows you how the subdivision is going to be laid out and authorizes the city engineer to approve the construction plans for those subdivision infrastructures such as the roads and the water and sewer lines to be laid. So what you have in front of you now is the preliminary plat, not the final plat. In terms of the conditions that you can, I don't really think there are any conditions that the traffic study has been submitted already. The traffic study has been submitted. Really what is there is for the city engineer to review, and then based on what that traffic study says and what other city transportation policies say, he will send a memo to you basically saying, from my review of this is my recommendation, this is what I think needs to be done as far as Davidson Road or any other road is concerned. That's really where we are. I don't know if that answers the question that Mr. Stratton had. Except there are some specific conditions you were looking at with respect to the traffic study. Are there any specific conditions you were referring to?
No, I'm trying to keep the process from being too held up on something that the developer and the traffic engineer, what the traffic engineer could come back and say, I have no more recommendations. Then we've held the process up. I'm asking whether we can make that a condition of it not going to the Board of Aldermen if there's no agreement.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I think what he's trying to say is to approve the preliminary plat subject to the traffic study being done by the.
That's correct.
Professionally, I will never make that recommendation.
You will not?
Professionally, I will not.
Of course, if we do table this to the December meeting, we will still meet prior to the Board of Aldermen, and they will have the same information at their December meeting if we discuss this at the December.
Yes, this will not hold up, and I think we had a discussion with Jason, even some emails from him on this. This is not going to hold up the process. The public hearing where the Board of Aldermen will make a final decision on the rezoning will be on December 16. At your next month's meeting on December 9, you will make a decision on the preliminary plat. So when you approve or deny whatever recommendation you make on December 9, that recommendation of the plat will go to the Board of Aldermen on December 16 and will be heard together with the rezoning on December 16. So in terms of timing, there will not be an issue. And one other thing I really want to emphasize again, this traffic study issue is not happening because of the city engineer. No, it's happening because the applicant submitted it late. That is it. That is a fact. It's not happening because city staff has been sitting on his bar, sitting on his hands and not doing work. That is not what is happening here. What is happening here is that it was submitted late, and staff will review it. Review has already started and provide you the information you need to make an informed decision. The process will not be held up. You have everything that you need on December 9. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I don't want to interject too much. I've spoken too much tonight, but based on tonight's meeting, and thank you for the affirmative recommendation on the zoning, we're going to unleash Chance tomorrow, and we're going to try to get with the city engineer. I mean, the only issue that we really, I've been able to track down the city engineer a couple of times, and the only issue where I think we might still be a little bit apart has to do with the, how we would do that, make that road wider between where it cuts off down to the project entrance. And I think we can pretty much meet what he said. I don't know that we can get quite to 30 feet, but we're gonna, whether or not we come back here, we're gonna start that work tomorrow. I mean, the fact of the traffic studies, the traffic study, it was up on the screen, the traffic study does not show that it has an impact, and I don't want to talk more about the traffic study. I probably talked about it too much tonight, but I think what they're talking about with road widening and cross sections and all, and that is part of your preliminary plat approval. So like I said, we can come back, we can work with them independently. We're going to do it either way, so it's okay from our perspective, whatever works best for you all.
There's no real value in us seeing it or handling this tonight, if we're going to see it again before the Board of Aldermen. I mean, there's just not. So whether we argue it now or whether we argue it then, it'll all be settled by December 9th. So,
Is that a motion?
Huh?
Is that a motion?
I'm of the motion that we just table it until our meeting in December 9th. I don't think that anybody's objected to that.
Mr. Stratton just made a motion that we table this application for preliminary plat till the December meeting, in which we will have the city engineer's report on the study.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a second by Mr. Singh. Any other discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And then the motion carried, and it'd be tabled to the December meeting for the preliminary plat. Thank you. Item number 3 is an application for a zoning map amendment submitted by Bob Farley Surveying on behalf of Vish Prasad Vance Realty LLC property owner. The request is to rezone 2.06 plus or minus acres from M2 heavy industrial to C2 highway commercial district. The subject property is at the northeast corner of Hacks Cross Road and Airport Road, known as 8274 Hacks Cross Road, and the applicant has requested to table this until December 9th. So I'll need a motion from that we table it to December 9th.
I make a motion to table.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Jones to table. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Lewis. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Then this has been tabled to the December 9th meeting. Also, item number 4 is an application for a final plat for Prasad Rheumatology subdivision submitted by Bob Farley Surveying on behalf of Vish Prasad Vance Realty LLC property owner. The request is to subdivide 2.06 plus or minus acres into a single lot. The subject property is at the northeast corner of Hacks Cross Road and Airport Road, known as 8274 Hacks Cross Road. And once again, this has been the applicant's request to table to December 9th, 2025, and I need a motion on that.
Make a motion to table.
Mr. Jones made a
Second.
motion to table, and Mr. Singh seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So that motion carries, and it's tabled to December 9th. We'll be busy December the 9th, it looks like. Item number 5 is an application for a final plat for Lot 2 Fox Creek Commercial Subdivision submitted by Ben Smith Walker LLC on behalf of property owner Fox Creek Investments LLC. The request is to create a single lot of 1.36 plus or minus acres. The subject property is zoned PUD Planned Unit Development and is located just west of the northwest corner of Highway 302 and Fox Creek Drive. We'll now have staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Planning Commissioners, before you is a request to consider a final plat for Lot 2 of the Fox Creek Commercial Subdivision. To give you an idea of where we are in the city, this is Goodman Road, this is Fox Creek Drive, this is Creekside Drive. And lying between those streets, you have this commercial area, or these lots. Lot 1 is platted, recorded already. There is a convenience store with fuel pumps that was just completed on that lot 1. It has an existing 35 feet wide shared access easement to the west of lot 1. The proposal, as I did mention, will be to create lot 2 of 1.36 acres. That lot, as suggested, will include a 30 feet wide cross access easement in front of the lot, which eventually should be extended across the other lots that will be provided or created to the west and extended to the north on this side and then out to Creekside Drive to provide interconnectivity between these lots as they are created. This is the plat as proposed. It does meet the zoning requirements with regard to the Fox Creek planned unit development. Transportation access will be from Goodman Road. There will not be a separate driveway for this lot 2. Lot 1 and lot 2 will share an access through these shared access easement. Water, sewer, and other public utilities are available in the street frontage of this lot. It will be the responsibility of the developer to extend those utility services to provide utilities to any development on that lot 2. No public infrastructure construction is involved. As such, it is not expected that there will be need for any financial guarantee for the completion of subdivision infrastructure. The developer does not request and staff does not find that a variance or a deviation from the requirements or even a waiver from the requirements of the subdivision regulations are applicable to this plat. As such, staff recommends approval subject to these standard conditions 1 through 5. Condition number 5 being the need for a draft declaration of covenants, conditions, and restrictions for the property owners as far as those subdivisions are concerned. You have stormwater management area there that is regional and would need to be maintained by the owners of these lots as they are created. That concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions to staff? Do we have someone here to represent the application?
Good evening, Chance Walker, 8180 Airways Boulevard, South Haven. I don't really have anything else to add, but I'll take any questions if there are any.
Okay, any questions? No questions, then thank you so much. Okay, we'll now entertain any comments, discussion, or motions from the commissioners.
Make a motion to approve based on staff's recommendations.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Singh to approve subject to staff recommendations. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Stratton. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Then the motion is carried and the application is approved. Thank you. And number 6 is an application for the replat of lots 29 and 30 of Pleasant Hill Estates East, Section A subdivision submitted by Latonia Reed, property owner. The subject property is zoned AR Agriculture Residential District and is located on the south side of Spring Creek Drive between Homestead Lane and Redwood Lane, known as 6167 and 6161 Spring Creek Drive.
Mr. Chairman, Planning Commissioners, to give you a general idea of where we are in the city, this is Church Road, this is Craft, and this is Pleasant Hill. So this is Rolling Stone subdivision, lies between those roads. Creekside Drive is precisely at this location. These are the 2 existing lots that are under consideration. What you have is a situation in which the existing lot line essentially bifurcates this existing house, and the property owner intends to move that lot line to the east. It's basically to cure that particular scenario. This is the plat as proposed. It meets the requirements of the zoning ordinance and the subdivision regulations of the city. The property is zone A, agricultural, residential. This particular zoning district does not require sidewalks, and so sidewalks will not be applicable or required in this area. This is an area in which the city is currently extending utilities infrastructure such as sewer, in this whole area. There is no need for public infrastructure to serve these lots, and as such, a financial guarantee for subdivision infrastructure completion is not applicable. No variance, deviation, or waivers from subdivision regulations requirements will be applicable. Staff recommends approval subject to these standard conditions 1 through 5. Condition that I want to insist on is any new driveway that is constructed in this subdivision will have to be paved in its entirety. So that particular condition was not included here, please. But I want to emphasize that. That is a requirement of the zoning ordinance. So any new driveway, I think lot 29 has a house on it, has its driveway already. That's good. Lot 30, any house that is constructed there will have to fully pave the driveway. That concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Any questions of staff? If not, do we have someone here to represent the application? If you'll please come forward.
Latonya Reed, course 6167 Spring Creek Drive. Finally, no comment.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you. All right. I'll now open it for any discussions, comments, or motions by the commissioners.
I make a motion to approve,
Have a
following staff recommendations.
Have a motion to approve by Mr. Jones, subject to the staff conditions. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Singh. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Then the motion's carried and the application's approved. Thank you. And now, any other business that we need to discuss?
No, sir.
If not, we need the motion to adjourn
I make a motion to adjourn.
by Mr. Jones. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Lewis. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, we are adjourned.